Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever opened an old coin collection, looked through a jar, or found a forgotten cents coin in a drawer and wondered whether of those coins could be worth much more than its face value? Today we're taking a very close look at a fascinating American coins. Coin number 1. If you have a 1974 with D. Jefferson nickel, especially one showing an attractive red or original mint state appearance, you may want to take a much closer look before spending it. In today's coin collecting market, certain high-grade examples of common-date Jefferson nickels can attract surprising attention from collectors. In this video, we're taking a detailed look at the 1974 with D. Jefferson nickel, including its history, design, Denver mint mark, condition, red coloration, important features, errors and varieties to watch for, grading factors, and the $186 market value figure associated with the example discussed in this video. The 1974 with D. Jefferson nickel is one of those coins that can easily be overlooked because millions were produced. According to PCGS, the Denver Mint struck approximately 270 of 373,000 Jefferson nickels, dated 1974. The coin contains 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighs approximately 5 grams, measures about 21.20 millimeters across, and has a plain edge. At first glance, those numbers might make the coin sound ordinary. And in circulated condition, many examples are indeed worth only a small amount above their 5-cent face value. But coin collecting is not simply about how old a coin is. Condition, strike quality, surface preservation, eye appeal, mint state grade, full steps detail, and unusual varieties can dramatically change the desirability of an individual example. Another major consideration is the strike. Jefferson nickels are particularly interesting because collectors often pay close attention to the steps at the base of Monticello. These are commonly discussed as full steps, or FS, when the required separation and detail are present according to grading standards. A strong strike can preserve the architectural details of Monticello, including the columns and steps. If you're examining your 1974 with D nickel under good lighting, turn it over and carefully inspect the area beneath Monticello. Don't assume that every shiny coin has full steps. The details need to be examined carefully, preferably with magnification. PCGS specifically lists as a 1974 with A and D5C full steps variety and records an auction result of $1,495 for an MS67 example in February 2010. This is a perfect illustration of why condition and strike can matter so much. A date that was produced in enormous numbers can still produce individual coins that command substantially more money when they survive in exceptional grades with desirable characteristics. But let's come back to the $186 market value highlighted in today's video. If you're using $186 as the current market value for a particular 1974 with D. Jefferson nickel in red or exceptionally preserved condition, it should not be interpreted as saying every 1974 with D nickel is worth $186. The value of any individual coin depends on its actual grade, certification, surface quality, strike, eye appeal, and marketplace. A circulated 1974 with D nickel and a professionally graded high-end mint state specimen can have completely different values. This is one of the most important lessons for anyone watching coin value videos. When you hear that a coin is worth $100, $186, $500, or even more, always ask one question: what grade and variety is that price referring to? A coin's date alone does not guarantee a particular price. Professional grading can make a major difference, because a tiny difference in grade can sometimes create a large difference in market value. If your 1974 with D nickel has unusually sharp steps, don't rush to clean it. In fact, one of the worst mistakes a beginning collector can make is cleaning a potentially valuable coin. Polishing, rubbing, chemical cleaning, abrasive materials, or household products can permanently damage the original surfaces. Even if the coin looks brighter after cleaning, collectors and grading companies can recognize unnatural surfaces. A naturally preserved coin is generally much more desirable than one that has been artificially polished. The red appearance you're seeing can also make the coin visually attractive. But remember that color by itself doesn't guarantee a high value. A coin can look bright while having significant scratches, spotting, hairlines, or other imperfections. Conversely, a coin that looks slightly less dramatic under ordinary room lighting may have excellent surfaces when viewed under proper illumination. Professional graders examine coins under controlled conditions and consider many different characteristics. Think about it this way. Millions of coins may have been produced, but not every coin was preserved equally. Some went directly into circulation. Others spent years in coin jars, vending machines, cash registers, drawers, pockets, and bags. Many developed scratches and marks. Some were exposed to moisture or chemicals. Others were stored carefully and remained in exceptional condition. Over several decades, the number of truly high-quality survivors can become much smaller than the original mintage. This is why collectors often search through rolls and old collections looking for coins with superior surfaces. A collector may inspect hundreds or thousands of nickels and discover only a few examples with the combination of sharp strike, beautiful luster, minimal marks, and excellent preservation necessary to compete at the highest levels. Another factor is eye appeal. Coin grading isn't just about counting scratches. A coin with attractive, original-looking surfaces can be more desirable than an example that technically grades similarly but has unattractive spots, discoloration, or distracting marks. When you're evaluating your 1974 with D nickel, place it under a good light and tilt it slowly. Watch how the luster moves across the surface. Strong cartwheel-like movement can be an encouraging sign of an uncirculated coin. However, be careful not to confuse shine with originality. Some coins have been polished, buffed, or chemically treated to make them look brighter. Natural mint luster has a distinctive appearance that is different from the flat, unnatural shine produced by cleaning. You should also inspect the rim. Look around the entire circumference of the coin and check for dents, scratches, flattening, or other damage. Rim damage can affect the overall appearance and grade. Then examine the edge. The Jefferson nickel has a plain edge rather than the reeded edge found on many other U.S. denominations. Now let's discuss possible errors and varieties. Even though the standard 1974 with D Jefferson nickel isn't automatically rare, unusual mint errors can create significant collector interest. Look for signs such as unusual doubling, off-center strikes, clips, die cracks, broad strikes, or other abnormalities. But be careful, not every unusual-looking mark is a mint error. Damage occurring after the coin left the mint can create shapes that resemble errors. For example, if you see what looks like doubling, examine the design carefully under magnification. True double die characteristics are part of the die itself, while machine doubling and post-mint damage can produce very different appearances. If you believe your coin has a significant error, professional examination is recommended before assigning a large value to it. The date 1974 is also historically interesting. The United States was in a period of significant economic and social change during the early 1970s. Coins from this era were being produced in enormous quantities for everyday commerce, which is one reason many examples still exist today. Yet collectors continue to search for unusually well-preserved specimens because condition rarity can make an otherwise common date much more interesting. When estimating the value of your own 1974 with D nickel, start by determining whether it is circulated or uncirculated. If you can clearly see wear on Jefferson's portrait and the high points of the design, the coin has likely seen circulation. If the surfaces are bright and show no obvious wear, it may be uncirculated. But determining the exact grade requires experience. Next, check the reverse steps. If the steps appear weak, broken, or incomplete, don't assume the coin is a full steps example. If they are unusually sharp and uninterrupted, you may have something more interesting. Strong full steps detail can be especially important for Jefferson nickel collectors. Then examine the surfaces. Look for contact marks on Jefferson's cheek and the large open fields around the portrait. On the reverse, inspect the fields around Monticello. Even small marks can matter at high grades because the competition between coins becomes much tighter as the grade rises. After that, look at the overall luster. Does the coin have natural mint brilliance? Does the surface appear smooth? Are there distracting spots? Is there evidence of cleaning? These details can help determine whether the coin deserves further investigation. It's also important to understand the difference between a price guide value, an auction result, and an actual amount you can expect to receive. A price guide may provide an estimate for a particular grade. An auction result reflects what someone actually paid in a specific sale. A dealer offer may be lower because the dealer needs room for expenses and profit. Therefore, don't assume that one published number represents the guaranteed cash value of every coin. One of the biggest mistakes people make when looking for valuable coins is focusing only on age. A coin doesn't have to be from the 1800 Paris to be collectible. The 1974 with D. Jefferson Nickel is a perfect example of a modern-era coin where condition can make a major difference. The coin is more than 50 years old now, and some exceptionally preserved examples can be considerably more desirable than ordinary circulated pieces. Imagine finding one of these coins in an old jar. You might see the date 1974 and think that's just a regular nickel. Then you notice the small D mint mark. You turn it over and see unusually sharp Monticello steps. You rotate it under the light and notice brilliant original surfaces with very few contact marks. Suddenly, that ordinary-looking 5-cent coin deserves a much closer examination. That is exactly why coin collecting can be so exciting. The value isn't always visible at first glance. Sometimes, the difference between a 5-cent coin and a collectible coin is hidden in tiny details that require magnification, patience, knowledge, and careful examination. Remember, the same date and mint mark can have dramatically different values depending on condition. One 1974 with D nickel might be worth only its face value or a small premium, while another exceptional example can attract serious collector attention. That's the fascinating part of the hobby. Millions may have been made, but the best survivors can still be difficult to find. If you have a 1974 with D. Jefferson Nickel, take your time. Don't scratch it, don't polish it, and don't use chemicals to make it shine. Hold the coin by its edges whenever possible, use soft surfaces during inspection, and consider a magnifying glass or coin loop. If you think you've discovered an exceptional example, compare it with certified coins and consider getting a professional opinion. And don't forget to inspect your other Jefferson Nickels. If you're already searching through your collection, check the dates, mint marks, strike quality, surface preservation, and reverse steps on all of them. Sometimes the most interesting coin isn't the one you expected to find. The 1974 with D. Jefferson Nickel is a great reminder that condition is king in modern coin collecting. Its huge production number means the date itself isn't enough to make a coin rare. But exceptional preservation, high mint state grades, full steps, strong eye appeal, and genuine mint errors or varieties can make individual examples much more desirable. So the next time someone hands you a handful of nickels, don't automatically overlook them. Look at the dates. Look for the mint marks. Turn the coins over. Study Monticello. Check the steps. Watch for unusual surfaces and possible errors. You never know when an ordinary 5-cent coin could turn into an interesting collectible. Next, coin number 2. This 1973 Jefferson Nickel without a mint mark. Don't be too quick to dismiss it. This particular coin is interesting because it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, where coins normally carried no mint mark during this period. And if your example has an unusually attractive dark or black appearance and excellent preservation, it may deserve a much closer examination. In today's video, we're taking a detailed look at the 1973 Jefferson Nickel with no mint mark in black condition, using the $167 market value featured in this video as our reference point. But we're also going to explain why not every 1973 nickel is worth $167 and what characteristics can make one example much more desirable than another. The first thing you need to understand about this coin is its basic identity. The coin we're discussing is a United States Jefferson Nickel dated 1973 with no mint mark. That absence of a mint mark is normal for a coin struck at Philadelphia during this era. According to PCGS, the 1973 Philadelphia Jefferson nickel had a mintage of approximately 396,000 pieces. It weighs about 5 grams, measures approximately 21.20 millimeters in diameter, has a plain edge, and is composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. That huge mintage is extremely important because it tells us that the date itself isn't enough to make this nickel rare. Millions were produced, and many examples remain available to collectors today. So if you find a 1973 nickel without a mint mark, you should not automatically assume that the missing mint mark makes it an error or makes the coin rare. Instead, the real question is, what condition is your coin in? Once you've confirmed the date, look closely around the area where a mint mark would normally appear. On a 1973 Philadelphia Jefferson nickel, you should not expect to see a D or S mint mark. This is completely normal. During this period, Philadelphia-produced circulating coins generally carried no mint mark. Therefore, the absence of a mint mark on a 1973 nickel is actually one of the normal identifying characteristics of the Philadelphia issue. This is a very important point for new collectors. Many people see a coin without a mint mark and immediately think they've discovered a rare no mint mark error. But that's not necessarily the case. For the 1973 Jefferson nickel, no mint mark is normal for the Philadelphia issue. PCGS identifies the standard 1973 issue as a Philadelphia minted coin and separately lists the 1973 with D Denver issue. Now let's turn the coin over to the reverse. The reverse of the Jefferson nickel features Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's famous Virginia home. Above the building, you'll see E pluribus unum, while the lower portion contains Monticello, 5 cents, and United States of America. This side of the coin is particularly important when evaluating a Jefferson nickel because collectors often pay close attention to the architectural details of Monticello. One of the most important areas to inspect is the steps beneath Monticello. These steps can be extremely significant for high-grade Jefferson nickel collectors. Coins with clearly separated, uninterrupted steps may qualify for the coveted full steps, or FS, designation when professionally graded according to the applicable standards. PCGS lists a separate 1973 Jefferson nickel full steps variety, showing just how important this feature can be. Imagine two 1973 Jefferson nickels sitting next to each other. Both have no mint mark. Both were made at Philadelphia. Both are more than 50 years old. Both have the same basic design. But one spent decades circulating through pockets, vending machines, cash registers, and coin jars. It has scratches, wear, dull surfaces, and damaged steps. The other was carefully preserved and has brilliant surfaces, strong details, minimal contact marks, and sharp Monticello steps. These two coins can have completely different collector appeal. This is why condition is one of the most important factors in coin collecting. Let's talk about the term black condition in greater detail. If your coin has a very dark surface, don't immediately assume that the darkness makes it valuable. Color can be caused by many different things. Natural toning can develop over decades depending on how a coin was stored. Exposure to humidity, chemicals, paper, plastic, or other environmental conditions can also alter the surface. Some dark coins can have attractive natural toning, while others may have undesirable environmental damage. The difference can be difficult for a beginning collector to identify. That's why you should never rely solely on color when estimating a coin's value. Instead, examine the surface under good lighting. Look for original luster, scratches, hairlines, spots, corrosion, discoloration, and signs of cleaning. If the dark appearance is natural and the underlying surfaces are exceptionally well preserved, collectors may find the coin interesting. But if the coin has been chemically treated to create an artificial dark appearance, that can have the opposite effect. Collectors generally prefer original surfaces, and professional graders can identify many forms of alteration. Next, coin number 3. This 1956 Jefferson nickel, without a mint mark, in green condition, with a featured market value of $197. At first glance, this may look like an ordinary 5-cent coin from the 1950s, but there are several important details that can make one 1956 Jefferson nickel much more interesting than another. In this video, we're going to examine the history of the 1956 Jefferson nickel, explain why the missing mint mark is normal, discuss the unusual green appearance, explore condition and grading, look at the famous Monticello steps, talk about full steps coins, examine possible errors and varieties, and explain why collectors can sometimes pay much more for exceptional examples. Let's begin with the most important identification detail. The coin we're discussing is a 1956 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark. Many new collectors see a coin without a mint mark and immediately assume that something is missing or that the coin must be an error. But in the case of a 1956 Jefferson nickel, that is not correct. The Philadelphia Mint produced this issue without a mint mark, so the absence of a mint mark is completely normal. PCGS identifies the 1956 Philadelphia Jefferson nickel as a Philadelphia issue with a mintage of approximately 216,000 pieces. This is an extremely important point for anyone searching for valuable nickels. A 1956 Jefferson nickel without a mint mark is not automatically rare, simply because there is no letter below the date. The lack of a mint mark tells us that the coin was struck at Philadelphia. During this era, Philadelphia coins normally did not carry a mint mark. Therefore, if you have a 1956 nickel without a mint mark, the first thing to remember is that you probably have the normal Philadelphia issue, not a special no mint mark error. But that doesn't mean the coin is uninteresting. In fact, the 1956 Philadelphia Jefferson nickel can become quite fascinating when we start talking about condition. PCGS describes the issue as common in circulated grades and reasonably available in lower mint state grades, but it becomes progressively scarcer at the highest grades. The full steps designation makes the finest examples even more challenging to find. This is one of the most important lessons in coin collecting. An unusual-looking coin is not automatically a rare coin. A colorful coin is not automatically a valuable coin. A dark coin is not automatically a valuable coin. The collector has to determine what caused the appearance and whether the coin underneath that coloration remains desirable. The safest approach is to leave the coin exactly as you found it until you understand what you're looking at. Now let's examine the coin itself. On the obverse, we see the portrait of Thomas Jefferson facing left. The design was created by sculptor Felix Schlag, whose Jefferson nickel design became one of the most recognizable designs in American coinage. Around the portrait are the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1956. The date is the first thing you should confirm. Make sure you are actually looking at 1956. Older coins can have worn digits, and sometimes lighting or damage can make one number appear similar to another. Take your time and use magnification if necessary. Once you've confirmed the date, look around the area where you might expect to see a mint mark. On a 1956 Philadelphia Jefferson nickel, there is no mint mark. Again, this is normal. PCGS has documented the historical placement of mint marks on Jefferson nickels. For coins struck from 1946 through 1964, the mint mark was located on the reverse to the right of Monticello when present. Philadelphia coins did not carry a mint mark during this period. This means that the absence of a mint mark on a 1956 nickel should not be treated as proof of rarity. Now turn the coin over. The reverse is where things become especially interesting. These steps are extremely important because collectors search for coins with exceptionally sharp and complete step details. When the applicable requirements are met, such coins can receive the coveted full steps, or FS designation. The 1956 Philadelphia nickel had a mintage of more than 35 million coins, so the date itself isn't an extreme rarity. But finding one in an exceptional grade with outstanding full steps can be much harder. Now let's focus on the green appearance. If your 1956 Jefferson nickel appears green, look at the color under different lighting conditions. Sometimes a coin may look green under one light and more brown, gray, or blue under another. This is why photographs can sometimes be misleading. Natural toning can create unusual colors on old coins. However, green coloration can also be associated with environmental problems or contaminants, particularly when the surface appears rough or damaged. Next coin, number 4. If you have a 1982 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark and a brown appearance, then you may want to stop before spending it. In today's video, we're taking a very detailed look at the 1982 with P Jefferson nickel in brown condition, with a featured market value of 158 AUD. This is one of those coins that can look completely ordinary at first, but when you begin examining the date, mint mark, condition, surfaces, strike quality, and especially the details on Monticello, the story becomes much more interesting. The important thing to remember is that not every 1982 with P Jefferson nickel is worth 158 AUD. The value depends heavily on the individual coin, its grade, preservation, possible full steps designation, varieties, errors, and collector demand. So stay with me, because we're going to examine everything you should know before deciding whether your 1982 with P Jefferson nickel deserves a closer look. The Jefferson nickel is one of the most recognizable coins in American coinage. It was introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and the classic design by Felix Schlag remained in use for decades. The obverse features Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, while the reverse features Monticello, Jefferson's famous Virginia home. By 1982, the Jefferson nickel had already been in production for more than 40 years, making this coin part of a long and important chapter in American numismatic history. The 1982 with P Jefferson nickel is particularly interesting because Philadelphia produced a large number of these coins. Philadelphia struck 355,000 Jefferson nickels in 1982. That means the date itself is not considered rare simply because it is from 1982. However, large production numbers do not mean every surviving coin is equally desirable. Collectors often become interested in coins that survive in unusually high grades, have strong strikes, display attractive original surfaces, or possess special characteristics such as full steps. Next, look for the P mint mark. The P tells us that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The use of the P mint mark on Philadelphia nickels began in 1980, so a 1982 nickel with a P mint mark is a normal Philadelphia issue. The P itself does not automatically make the coin rare. Instead, it helps identify which mint facility produced the coin. This is an important lesson for anyone beginning to collect coins. A mint mark is a clue, not an automatic guarantee of value. You should never look at a P mint mark and immediately assume that you have discovered a rare nickel. Instead, use the mint mark together with the date, condition, strike, surface quality, and other characteristics to determine whether the coin deserves further attention. Now let's talk about the brown condition described for today's example. Brown is not an official numerical grade used by professional grading companies. When we call this coin brown, we're talking about its visible coloration or surface appearance. A coin can become brown or develop darker coloration for many different reasons. It may have natural toning, environmental exposure, residue, storage-related changes, or surface damage. Therefore, color alone should never be used to determine whether a coin is valuable. Now let's examine Jefferson's portrait. Look closely at the hair. Examine the forehead, cheek, jaw, and other high points. If the coin circulated heavily, these areas can show signs of wear. The highest points of a coin's design are often among the first places where circulation wear becomes visible. Next, examine the open fields around Jefferson. These areas can reveal contact marks, scratches, and other surface imperfections. A coin may appear beautiful from a distance, but reveal numerous small marks under magnification. This is especially important if you believe your nickel could be a high-grade coin. Condition is one of the most important factors in determining coin value. A heavily circulated 1982 with P Jefferson nickel is a very different collectible from a sharply struck mint state example. Current collector references indicate that ordinary circulated 1982 with P nickels generally remain around face value, while lightly circulated and high-grade examples can command premiums. This area is extremely important to Jefferson nickel collectors. The steps can provide clues about the quality of the strike and the preservation of the coin. Collectors look for sharply defined, uninterrupted steps, and qualifying examples can receive a full steps designation. Professional grading services have specific standards for this designation. If you're examining your 1982 with P nickel, use magnification if possible. Look at the horizontal lines on the steps. Are they clearly visible? Are they complete? Are there interruptions? Are there scratches crossing them? Does the coin appear strongly struck? These details can be extremely important. However, do not assume that visible steps automatically mean full steps. A coin must meet specific standards to receive that designation. Strike quality, die condition, and contact marks can all affect whether the steps qualify. This is one of the reasons serious Jefferson nickel collectors spend so much time studying the reverse. Sometimes, the difference between an ordinary coin and a much more desirable coin can be found in very small details that are easy to miss with the naked eye. This distinction is extremely important if you are researching coins online. You may see one 1982 with P. Jefferson nickel selling for a few cents, another for several dollars, and another for hundreds or even thousands. At first, this can seem confusing, but once you understand grading, the differences become much easier to explain. Imagine you have two 1982 with P. Jefferson nickels. One has been circulating for decades. It has scratches, flattened details, and worn steps. The other has never circulated and has exceptionally clean surfaces, strong luster, and sharp Monticello steps. Both have the same date and mint mark, but they are not equal in collector value. If you enjoy this video, subscribe the channel, like this video.